Welcome to Season 4 of AIHA's podcast series, The Healthier Workplaces Show, where we explore timely and informative topics about occupational and environmental health and safety to help you improve your workplace. I'm your host, Alejandro Castillo, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with AIHA President Nicole Greeson. Nicole has worked in the world of OEHS for more than 20 years, most recently in her current role as Associate Director of the Occupational and Environmental Safety Office at Duke University. She's here to provide insights into some of AIHA's recent initiatives, including a delegation she led to Vietnam in October 2024. AIHA published a blog post about the delegation prior to its trip, and we're excited to follow up with Nicole today to learn more about what this effort means for the OEHS field and her forecast of issues that will be at the forefront of the profession in 2025. Nicole, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let's get started. You led AIHA's delegation to Vietnam this past October. How did this opportunity come about?
So this trip was organized as part of the Citizen Ambassador Program, which is run by Cultural Vistas, an organization that promotes understanding between cultures through international exchange programs. The Citizen Ambassador Program was first established by the U.S. State Department during the Eisenhower administration, so it has a very long history of organizing such exchanges. It used to be called People to People International, so some of our listeners might be familiar with it from the previous terminology and may have even participated in some of the delegations that were run under People to People. So the director of the Citizen Ambassador Program first contacted Larry Sloan and me in the spring of 2024 to let us know that groups in Vietnam had specifically requested an exchange program on occupational health and safety. And she thought AIHA was an excellent fit for the program and asked if we would be interested in leading this delegation. So after further discussion with her and also speaking with some representatives from ACOM, the American College for Occupational and Environmental Medicine, who had done a delegation to Cuba in 2023 with this same organization that they were very pleased with, we agreed to go forward with the delegation to Vietnam.
That sounds very exciting. What were the key topics of discussion with your Vietnamese counterparts, and what discussion resonated most with you on the state of OEHS globally?
So discussion topics included resources AIHA offers. So for example, the Emerging Economies microgrants, free statistical tools and education, our new heat stress app, discounted membership and publications for those in emerging economies like our colleagues in Vietnam. Another thing that we talked about was OEHS challenges facing Vietnamese workers, and for that matter, workers in other countries. Actually, several of the members on our delegation were from outside of the United States. So we had a very nice, diverse international perspective. So not only Vietnamese colleagues, but we had an individual from Australia, one from Saudi Arabia. So we had a nice mix of perspectives on global challenges, which added a lot of breadth to the discussion, I would say. We also talked about differences and similarities in government regulations and agencies between different countries, and some of the challenges with enforcing OEHS related regulations. And then one of our big points of discussion was areas of potential collaboration moving forward. As far as the second part of your question, what resonated most with me, I would say the discussion that resonated most was how many similar challenges we face. So for example, one, the lack of funding for government agencies with missions related to OEHS, so we could all relate to that. Two, how much traction our profession got during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we found that our colleagues experienced similar to us, that the profession gained some traction recognition with the things that we were able to accomplish related to the pandemic and protection of workers. And then three, attracting and training people to work in this field. So it seems to be something on everybody's mind, how we can ensure we have a good pipeline of professionals coming into to do what we do.
Absolutely. You met with students from several universities during your trip. What advice did you give these aspiring OEHS professionals about pursuing careers and certifications in this field?
So great question. We gave them advice to utilize their alumni network and take advantage of the internships that they complete to learn as much as possible and gain support from professionals that they work under or for, to consider the breadth of opportunities available as OEHS careers. In fact, we offered to host webinars with members presenting on different career paths so that they could learn what options there might be when they graduate. And we learned that one of the barriers to certification, not very surprising for those in emerging economy, is cost and the minimum required IH-specific training that they need, in particular to obtain the CIH. So we explained that there are some options for financial assistance if you're from an emerging economy. And there's coursework available through OHTA that can help them meet the minimum requirements if they are not getting the minimum that they need through their university coursework. I also was extremely impressed with the enthusiasm and passion that they exhibited. It was actually quite exciting. It was one of my favorite parts of the delegation. And I think my fellow delegates really enjoyed meeting the students as well. And so I feel confident that we'll see these universities continue to produce well-trained professionals who are interested in pursuing OEHS careers.
Let's have you look at your crystal ball for 2025. What issues do you see as most pressing, or perhaps are areas that might not yet be on everyone's radar?
So I think pressing issues are climate change, which seems to be leading to an increasing number of workers potentially impacted by heat stress, as well as additional disaster responses. So not long before this trip, my home state of North Carolina was really devastated by Hurricane Helene and is still recovering. One of our delegates actually had to leave a day early because of flight impacts from a typhoon. So we're really seeing what seems to be an increase in natural disasters resulting from climate change. I think OEHS professionals can help and are helping in these areas. And additionally, one of AIHA's grand challenges for the profession is mitigating the impacts of climate change on workers.
As you know, in summer 2024, a lot of heat records were shattered. How is AIHA addressing climate change, and what can OEHS professionals do to prepare?
So AIHA formed a thermal stress working group, and members of that group suggested a heat stress app, which in 2024 has come to fruition. It's now freely available on the app stores for both Apple and Android phones. It calculates the adjusted wet bulb globe temperature that informs heat stress risk level and actually comes up with health recommendations. So it can be used not only by OEHS professionals, but also by workers, and it can be used globally. It's not just limited to US and Canada. And it's been of great interest to our international colleagues. I talked about the heat stress app during my trip to Vietnam and all of the presentations that I gave to the groups that we met with, and actually had individuals downloading the heat stress app and playing around with it by the end of my presentation and showing me that they were already using it. So they were very excited by that resource. So that's one thing, is that people can download and use the heat stress app and promote it to employers and workers so that the individual workers can use it while they're out in the field and can get immediate recommendations based on what their adjusted wet bulb globe temperature is. I also think that OEHS professionals can familiarize themselves with AIHA's Disaster Response Resource Center that's on the AIHA.org website, because there's many resources available there. It's sort of like a clearinghouse. It pulls together a number of resources, both from AIHA and from other sources. And so that can help professionals to prepare for increasing disasters resulting from climate change.
Now, you mentioned disaster response. What exactly is AIHA doing to address this issue coming into 2025?
So we have a lot of information on the website, AIHA.org, specifically related to disaster response. There's been a number of publications that have been pulled together, some updated, some new. So I would recommend that people look at the resources that are available. I believe we have some educational offerings related to disaster response as well. And of course, we have our AIHA consultants listing. So for those who might be in the public looking for assistance in a disaster response scenario, they can go to our consultants listing to help find individuals who would be qualified to help them.
That's great. Flu season has started in locations in the Northern Hemisphere. What can OEHS professionals do to prevent the spread of the flu and other airborne transmitted viruses and diseases in the workplace?
So OEHS professionals can educate workers on how these diseases spread and emphasize the importance of not coming to work sick or otherwise isolating from others, and the importance of hand hygiene, so washing hands, sanitizing hands. And if you are a source, wearing a surgical or other face mask to help reduce your emissions. And then for those who want to be protected from sources, to wear respiratory protection. So those are all things that we can do to help workers avoid being sick, or if they are sick, to help prevent them from spreading it to other individuals.
Absolutely. Indoor air quality in the workplace is the subject of much attention these days, and for good reason. How is AIHA addressing mold, and what can OEHS professionals do to prevent the spread of mold?
So I think, unfortunately, there's lots of focus on mold and indoor air quality because maybe related to climate change, we seem to have more areas impacted, or maybe it's just more awareness of potential issues with indoor air quality and mold. And similar to the Disaster Response Resource Center, AIHA also has on AIHA.org a mold resource center that pulls together similarly a number of resources, some that are published by AIHA and some from US or other agencies, so reputable sources of information that would be available both for practitioners and then also for the public who might be concerned. So lots of resources that we have available. And I would say specifically for how we can try to prevent issues related to mold specifically, my experience, because I deal with this a lot in my day job, is we need to quickly address if there's water intrusion issues. So find the source of the water intrusion, fix the source of the water intrusion, then deal with whatever impact has already happened. So if there is mold, ensuring that it's properly remediated, but really the key is addressing the source so that it doesn't recur, and also controlling humidity, because that can be another potential in addition to water intrusion. So trying to figure out if there is mold, why is it there? What was the source of moisture essentially that allowed it to grow, and address that source so that we don't have mold recurrence in that location.
That's very interesting. What I'm also hearing is that there's a lot of resources on the AIHA website that people can check out.
Absolutely. And they're free. So.
And they're free. Absolutely. Is there a story you can share with us about your experience with mold?
Yes, I have quite a few from my work at Duke University. One of them that happened not too long ago was we had found a small amount of mold in a bathroom, and then we're trying to trace back, was it a leaking toilet or what the case might be, and actually found through using forward-looking infrared camera and some other methods, ended up having to actually remove some drywall, found that there was a crack in a drain pipe that had run basically through numerous floors behind the bathroom wall where the sinks and toilet drains were, et cetera, and it had cracked and was leaking down multiple floors. And
Wow.
So it manifested in mold in one specific location, but then we were actually able to find the bigger problem of the cracked drain line that had to be replaced essentially, so that we wouldn't have an issue again. But that was how we found the crack in the pipe.
Wow. So just one crack can cause so much damage.
It can. Yes.
Incredible.
So
Wow.
you think about a drain line, there's a fair amount of flow going through it. So if there is a crack, you can have particularly if it goes unnoticed for a length of time because it's not exposed, it's in the wall cavity, there's a significant amount that could leak over time. And so that's where you get to the point where the drywall had been wet long enough that mold was able to grow.
Incredible. Finally, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about these AIHA initiatives coming into 2025?
Yeah, so I'd like to point out there's a number of things we haven't covered in this podcast. Four in particular, I wanted to mention that there's an AIHA calculator app, long awaited, that is coming in the first quarter of 2025, and I think people will be very pleased with the breadth of calculations covered in that can be used. Second, additional milestones on our 4 scientific initiatives. Third, for AIHA Connect in 2025 in May in Kansas City, we will have increased certification maintenance hours available. So many people come to that conference in order to get CM points for their certifications, and having more hours as opportunities this year should be of interest to folks who are going for those certification maintenance points. And then lastly, the release of 3 publications are expected in 2025, the first of which is Chemical Protective Clothing 3rd edition. The second one is Mathematical Models for Estimating Occupational Exposure to Chemicals, 3rd edition, and then the Biosafety Reference Manual, 3rd edition. So look for those references to be coming out. I recommend that listeners visit, as I've already mentioned, the AIHA.org website, because that has the latest updates of things that we're publishing. Also, reading our new quarterly member newsletter to stay up to date on what's going on. Viewing postings on Catalyst. As most people have seen, we've returned to the old Catalyst platform that people asked for, and it has some enhancements. So I think that it is better than the Catalyst platform we had before. And so people are frequently sharing information on there. It's a great place to post questions and get answers. Read the Synergist. We try to keep that up to date with information. And then finally, I would say connect with AIHA on your favorite social media platform to stay up to date on what we have going on in 2025.
That's perfect. I don't think the viewers can stress enough that we have so many free resources available, and I can attest that the new Catalyst platform is much better. I'm using it myself, and I can already see a major improvement. Nicole, absolutely. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing valuable insights about these exciting new initiatives. To learn more about AIHA and our global initiatives, visit the AIHA website and follow us on social media. That wraps up today's episode of the AIHA Healthier Workplaces show. Join us for our next episode when past President Dina Siegel and CEO Larry Sloan discuss AIHA's 2025 and 2027 strategic plan. Thank you for tuning in, and as always, remember, healthier workplaces means a healthier world. Until next time.